Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tech on Deck, where we explore the innovations shaping transportation and logistics. I'm your host, Dan Shipley, and today we're diving into technology that wasn't even designed for trucking, but has the potential to be a game changer for cargo securement. My guest today is John Schultz. He is a mechanical engineer in the automotive industry who developed Strap Sentry, a system that detects loose straps. Interestingly, it wasn't originally made for trucking, but through a connection with Secure Your Loads founder Robin Abel, John and FSSG are now working together to bring this tech into the transportation industry. John, thanks for being here. How's everything going today?
Great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about some of the things we got in common with our shared mission of load securement.
Absolutely. Now, you're coming from a background in mechanical engineering in the automotive industry, which is a long way from trucking. You have absolutely no experience in the trucking industry whatsoever, which is what you've reached out to us for. Can you tell us about your background and what kind of work you do in the automotive industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't have any professional trucking background, but I spent about 7 years in the aerospace industry and then moved back to Michigan to work in the automotive industry for about 7 years. And both of those were working on engine technologies, kind of been a gearhead my whole life. And that's what took me into mechanical engineering. As far as Strap Sentry and load securement, I grew up kind of tinkering with a bunch of random stuff with engines like snowmobiles, dirt bikes, jet skis. So I was always grabbing stuff cheap off of Craigslist and dragging it home, tried to rebuild it and keeping it in the back of my truck without it falling out onto the road. So that's kind of where my experience is, just more of an inconvenience and not wanting to hurt anybody with my ATV hanging out of the back of a little Ford Ranger. So I've been in the conversations with you and Daniel, I've been learning a lot about the trucking industry and curious to see if there would be a need or an appetite for strap sentry in the trucking industry.
Well, we definitely see the need for it in the trucking industry. We've been actually, as you know, we've been in contact with quite a few different players, and we're setting a few things up in the background that we're not going to disclose, but we're working on a few things here that we think are going to work. So the item is called the Strap Sentry, and we think it's amazing. But before we dive into Strap Sentry, um, let's talk about what drove you to create it. What was the triggering event that made you think like, okay, I got to make a solution to this problem.
Yeah, I guess starting with an inconvenience of just having to keep an eye in your rearview mirror. Like one example I can think of is trailering a snowmobile on kind of a small, sketchy little trailer in the middle of the night trying to go up north for a snowmobile trip. I just kept stopping, on the side of the freeway, making sure those straps were still tight because it didn't feel safe to me, and I didn't enjoy the drive because I'd have to get out in the middle of the night, cold night, check the straps every hour or so, and especially at night when you can't actually see the straps to see if they're coming loose. You don't want a snowmobile coming off the trailer at freeway speeds and hurting anybody or and ruining your weekend too. So it kind of started with an inconvenience like that, but then when you start looking on the internet at unsecured loads, it gets really scary fast. You just
Hmm.
Google unsecured loads, you'll see, a piece of plywood going through somebody's windshield, and it doesn't look like somebody could walk away from something like that.
Hmm.
So trying to raise awareness on unsecured loads like Robin and yourself have been doing, but what I tried to do is take my mechanical engineering background and make a device because that's kind of the stuff that I enjoy too, is just like I said, tinkering, but also trying to create some stuff like that. So I figured I could come up with the technology that works with smartphones and wirelessly communicate with the sensor to the smartphone, since technology today just enables us to come up with all these new things at a relatively low cost. So coming back to the motivation, first starting with the inconvenience and then looking at the safety aspect. Now a father of two, one more on the way, you just get a little bit more of a sense of mortality. As you get older with kids, you want everybody to stay safe. And one story my wife had a couple years ago, she was on the freeway and a piece of drywall flew off a truck and hit her car. Luckily, she was able to swerve away, but just close calls like that, I'm sure a lot of people have stories like that they can talk to, especially friends and family, stuff like that.
All kinds of stuff are falling off of trucks. It's what it boils down to is the driver of the truck or the owner of the equipment. Just they're just not either they're not doing enough to make sure the equipment is up to par for the job, or the driver isn't doing enough to make sure that the equipment is up for par for the transportation for transporting it down the road, whether it's the
Yeah,
load or it's a brake chamber or whatever the case might be. Pre-trip and post-trip inspections are very vital, especially with load securement. In the morning before you go, a driver needs to get out. They need to check, and this goes even for somebody driving a personal vehicle, whether they got a duffel bag or a ladder tied to the roof rack, or they got an ATV or a side by side on a trailer. Before they start, they need to check that everything is tight. Um, and when they get done, they need to check to make sure everything is still tight if they plan on continuing with that load, right? And if more and more people can do that, then I think the roads would be safer. And your technology in mid trip, essentially, while it's in transit, can help the driver, minus the pre trip and minus the post trip, can help the driver understand the metrics of what's going on. We were talking prior to the podcast that it can give data as far as stopping, what the strap's doing when it's stopping or braking, and what else? What did you say? What's
yeah, accelerating. You
excel?
might see it increase in tension if it's braking maybe, or even reduce in tension when you're accelerating.
And that can tell you if the strap is loose, and
Yeah,
that's important information because that could tell the driver, hey, you need to pump the brakes, get out, and tighten that strap a couple more clicks, right? And that's important. That's important technology that I think he came up with, and that's why I think it needs to be introduced to the truck industry, and not just flatbedding. We want it. We want to see it everywhere. Anywhere an enclosed trailer is Conestoga, covered wagon, especially dry van trailers, right, where the driver can't see what they're securing, right?
yeah,
So we're working on a lot of stuff there. So backing it up a little bit. This started with Robin Abel and Secure Your Load. Uh, can you tell everybody how you found Secure Your Load?
sure. Yeah, so we're at a point where we're trying to get our name out there to get some more awareness about Strap Sentry, and my wife often helps me with that kind of stuff. She was looking on the internet, social media type stuff, and came across Robin's page and just blown away about how much she's been able to accomplish just by herself. Unfortunately, she had her daughter's accident. Luckily, she was able to survive that accident, but it looked pretty severe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, real inspiring story that a lot of people are affected. I think I saw some NTSB statistics that over 700 deaths per year with unsecured loads, and luckily, we've got somebody like Robin who's kind of leading the charge. Probably not, making any money off of it, just doing it out of the goodness of her heart because she knows the dangers that she's seen firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So we sent out an email to Robin, thanking her for everything she's doing, telling her that we saw her story, and I just wanted to make her aware that we're also have a shared mission and we're trying to do our part with Strap Sentry.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed excited about it and quickly shared your name because she knows that you're tackling the side of flatbedding in the trucking industry and trying to get load securement improvements all throughout the trucking industry. So I'm glad that she put us in contact so quickly. That
I,
was
I
nice.
I bet when you got that email, you were like, yes. Right?
Yeah,
Because we do have a lot of contacts on our end, and we quickly got the ball rolling. I think it was
yeah,
what 2 days, and not even that 2 days. It was what, a week, maybe 2 weeks, and
yeah.
we were able to got it get a meeting put together. So uh, we worked with so when we started FSSG back in early 2022, we started with three people. That was it. It was me, my best friend, and the co-founder at the time. His name was James Goodson. That was it. And we all had a meeting, and we were like, I wonder if there's anything out there like that's similar to us. And we started typing away, kind of like what your wife did. We found
Yeah.
Secure Your Load. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna reach out to her, and she actually ended up giving us her phone number, and we had a meeting with her. It was like an hour long meeting, and it was an interesting conversation. She told us basically what she learned along the way, and she told us what we can expect, how bumpy this road's going to be, and basically what we had to prepare for, and what we need to do to prepare for it. And all the advice that she's given us, we took, and
Hmm.
that's how we grew to a membership of over 9,100 people. We've got over, I'd say, over 1,000 connections through LinkedIn.
Wow.
We got many people that contact us, many people that we contact. We're quickly becoming a name or a staple in the flatbed industry. Our logo is now recognized more and more. Um, we're working on the first ever internationally accredited flatbed training course, and that's going to actually transform into making multiple internationally accredited training courses for the entire transportation industry. We're actually going to be working with LWS and others in the transportation industry to make that happen. And we're working with companies like ProMiles, for example, to make a permitting dictionary that teaches people how to read permits.
Hmm.
So FSSG started as this group of three people who were like, we want to learn how to secure loads, and it's transforming into this whole, I'd call it this mecca of information where I cannot believe it did not exist in the past,
Yeah.
right? So we're coming together as an industry where this information that may not have been available 2 to 5 years ago, we're all coming together, working as a team, and making sure it's now here with one goal in mind. And that's no accidents ever. That's FSSG's motto. That's your motto. That's Robin's motto. We Nobody wants accidents. We want the roads to be safer, and I think that's why FSSG and Strap Sentry connected immediately. As soon as I got your email, it was like 9 o'clock at night. I was so ready for bed. I was already up for like 30 some hours, and I saw that, and I stayed up an extra hour and a half. So I was like, okay, I got to talk to him, and we got right to work.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it looks like you guys developed a great resource. When I look at trucks on the road, I say, those guys have 10, 15 straps. They do it every day. They know what they're doing. I feel safe around the trucks, but then to learn that you guys have put this great resource to keep making that even better for all truck drivers, it's been pretty cool to see. You guys
it's,
have
de-
built something pretty big.
it's definitely our goal, and it's been a rocky and bumpy road. So you build this device for one purpose, and that is to keep the load attached to the equipment, whether it's a vehicle or a trailer. And then suddenly you're in talks with a flatbed safety organization, FSSG, about applying it to trucking. What is your initial reaction to that?
Well, it's kind of a exciting whirlwind. I'm just in the phase of trying to launch it to passenger vehicles, consumers, guys who are putting kayaks on their car, or a mattress on their roof that they can't see. And the trucking industry is just a whole nother world. I mean, you see thousands of trucks out on the road every day, thousands of straps, which in talking with you guys presents a lot of risk. I mean, the loads that you're carrying are not little plastic kayaks. They're multiple thousand-pound I-beams and real dangerous stuff. So
Yeah,
I hope that.
and we shared with you because there was a lot of things you didn't know about it. You were like,
Oh
"Well, you can
yeah.
do it this way," and we're like, "Well, no, you can't do it that way because of this right here." And you were like, "Well, I didn't think about that."
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff and that you're learning, and FSSG. I mean, we took we as soon as we got in contact with you, we took it 0 to 60. I don't think you thought that we were going to go as fast as we're going.
Yeah.
We're contacting people left and right. We're sending out emails to companies over here, companies over there. We're trying to stay in contact with you all the while. We're working on FSSG, working on
Yeah.
our stuff. I'm working with we just partnered up with a trucking company right now, and I'm working with them to do some stuff on their end. And I actually just introduced them to you, so they're actually looking into it as well. So we got a lot of stuff that we're doing in the background. So
Yeah.
let's go back into that. So back to your initial reaction. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, where was I? Um, yeah, excited that you guys latched onto the technology and see some potential. Just a couple of short conversations, I've learned a ton, especially the requirement you guys have to check the first 50 miles, check all the straps, and then check the next 150 miles after that, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And
3 hours. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just I know the trucking industry is time is money. You guys have to pull over and check on everything. In addition to the safety risk, time is money, and it also shared with me a story that when you get a load set down, some cases they rush you out the door, and you maybe can't take all the steps you need to make sure you're comfortable with the securement of the load.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see a lot of opportunity now that I talk with you guys, to help improve the safety of load securement.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears for a second. Loose straps aren't just an inconvenience. Okay, they're a huge safety issue, especially in flatbed trucking. We deal with frequent stops that we just talked about to check the straps. The cargo shifts mid trip. The DOT fines for unsecured loads can be astronomical. When you first started looking at this from a trucking perspective after talking with FSSG, what stood out to you as the biggest problem that Strap Sentry could help solve?
Um, well, when I started looking in and talking to you guys have, I think you said 10, maybe up to 30 straps on a truck, which, if you needed all those, it really tells me the risk that that load presents to the other drivers around you. So I think that what really stood out to me was the potential risks. I know you have obviously all this training and you know what you're doing, and most everybody takes their time to do the best job, but the risks are just astronomical when you lose something that big going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So if a little sensor like this might be able to help save just one accident, I think it would be well worth it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Did anything surprise you about how truckers currently monitor the straps?
Um, Yeah, I guess I appreciate the requirement to have to stop every 150 miles. Looking at those loads from my vehicle, they look really secure, but I guess in some cases, like Daniel shared a story, I believe that PVC pipe, for example, no matter how much you ratchet it down, all those little pieces are gonna stack against each other and want to shift around over time. So even if you're doing the tightest straps, everything the right way, you can't help some loads causing the straps to loosen a little bit. So I really appreciated that requirement to stop and check every 150 miles because everybody's in a rush and you got to do your due diligence. And if you're not strapping down the same load every time, every day, you're going to learn something new when you strap down something else.
Well, there's also times where some people will get like partial loads or mixed loads where like the front of the load will be we'll call it the first 20 feet of the load will be just a complete box, and that's all you
Hmm.
see. And then the last 20 feet or 28 feet, or it depends on the size of the trailer, really. You have 48, 53s. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. You'll have skinnier loads that you can't see because they're behind the first 20 feet of the load. And
Sure.
then you got, 2 feet of strap that are empty before it touches the load that the driver can't see. You can't see the load. You can't see what the strap's doing. The strap's doing this right here. You can't see the strap getting loose. He done drove 280 miles because he's now stopping to do a mid trip inspection because
Yeah.
all of his straps are fine, right? So if his company utilized the Strap Sentry and said, "Hey, whenever you get a load, especially if you get a load that you can't see in your mirrors, you have to use a Strap Sentry, hook it on there." How do you think that would change the game?
I think it would put I think it would put the driver's focus a little bit more on the road. Like there's a huge responsibility driving that heavy truck on the freeway with so many people around you. And just with my snowmobile story, I'm looking in the rearview mirror, I'm feeling a little bit anxious, and I'm also trying to, drive sometimes at night with that in my head. So I was a little bit surprised that you'd have to monitor them visually through the mirrors, and I can see how that could be pretty distracting, and you got a big responsibility keeping your truck straight on the road.
Hmm. So if I'm a flatbed driver and I hook my straps or hook up my straps, I attach my strap sentry, and if a strap starts to loosen, I get an alert on my phone. Okay.
Hmm.
That saves time, it prevents violations, and keeps the load secure. Simple, but effective. What's been the most common feedback you've gotten back from your testing so far?
Yeah, so just recently, I've got some feedback, and I think they really appreciate the simplicity of the experience with Strap Sentry. So starting out, a couple of the key factors I had in mind was make it simple and easy to use because, like we've talked about, if you've got to strap down 20 straps, you're thinking about how to do all that. You're thinking about all your pre-trip checklists. You don't need one more thing to take some of that brain bandwidth and think about how do I work this Strap Sentry. So the ease of use is something that I really focused on, and I appreciated the feedback from one of our beta testers. Is you really just tighten everything down, and at the very end, clamp it on, open up the phone, tap the threshold bar to make sure you lock in, and then you can actually just put your phone down and wait for a notification, or just keep driving if everything's good.
So, one thing that is big in trucking is space, especially in flatbedding. We're limited on the space that we have because we got straps we got to roll up, we got winch bars, we got strap winders, we've got binders, we've got chains, we've got tarps, we've got bungees, we've got all this equipment that we've got to figure out where to store it. We got to make sure that we keep it clean, keep it protected from the elements. Your strap sentry, and how do I word it here? If I was to have a flatbed that has 14 4-inch winches on the side of it, so I went to you and said, "Hey, John, I'd like to purchase 14 strap sentries for my 4-inch straps." Uh, I would have to worry about where I'm going to store them. Number one, I'm going to have to worry about the elements. So how is it going to hold up to the elements? I'm going to have to worry about, well, I'm in my truck. I got a long way to go. How's the battery life? I got to worry about a whole list of things associated with having this device. Can you explain to our audience how simple they are to store? Basically, what the sizes of them are. Um, I know that you're in the 1 to 2 inch phase right now. You're building a 3 to 4.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of explain what the size of them are and how easy they would be to store, how they hold up to the elements, how they secure to a strap, um, and basically the battery life. So if I got a 680-mile trip, is it going to last?
Yeah, yeah, great questions. So one of the other ideas was to make it somewhat universal. So, like you said, I've got the 1 to 2 inch strap design that I've worked on and continuing to develop the 3 to 4 inch strap design. So, a single design the current design could attach to any standard 1 to 2 inch strap. And they're relatively low profile. I think from what I've seen on trucks, I think that you could easily fit it in. I've got one here. You can get a sense of how small it is in my hand. This is the
Oh
one that
wow, yeah,
goes from a 1 to 2 inch strap.
it's
So
compact.
it's the idea is just to keep it as small as possible. Like you said, nobody wants to store extra stuff that they don't need.
And it
So
looks like
this
it's
would,
got a locking pin on it too, so it secures to the strap. It looks like.
yeah, exactly. One of the things I also thought about was if you put this on, is this going to be another thing you worry about it flying off? So it's kind of got a little bit of redundancy where you have to push in this button to unlock it, and
Hmm.
then I don't know if you could see that, but then once you lock it in, it snaps shut. So it won't come off unless you actually push the button in and turn the latch. And to
Okay.
give you a little sense of how it compares to a strap, I got a strap here I can show you real quick. So this is a 1 inch strap, obviously, and you would once you had it secured, you can either put it on tight or loose, but normally you're going to put it on tight. You just clamp it on like that, lock it shut. You could probably hear it snap. And then one of the things to save battery life is it goes to sleep if it's not using any tension. So let's see if I can actually wake it up with a little tension. So then,
Oh yeah, I see the light.
yeah, so now it's looking to pair with the phone. I don't know how this will come through the video, but while it's in pairing mode, you hit the connect button and then it quickly pairs and it's starting to sense the tension. I obviously don't have it tight right now, but once you get it on tension, it'll read a certain level, and that level is kind of determined by you. What you think is a safe level is where you set your starting point. So the idea is you tighten it down as tight as you think is sufficient, and then it'll read that tension. You tap the tension bar to set your threshold. Say this is where I started. If I go say 10% lower than that, start telling me or giving me a soft warning. If I go beyond 10%, maybe 15%, then send me a little bit more of a serious warning so that I can actually find a way to pull over and check the strap.
See, I didn't know that. I really did not know that. So I got a question for you.
Sure.
Let's say I got a load of foam insulation. So you cannot crank down on foam insulation. You will destroy foam insulation. I'm sure you've seen loads of this going down the road.
Yeah.
And it's notorious for separating because drivers are afraid of making it too tight, and some drivers crank down too hard on it, and they'll just chew through 3, 4, 5 layers of foam insulation.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, if I'm a fleet owner and I've got 30 trucks on the road, and we we pull dedicated freight, let's say it's foam insulation, and we do testing to see, okay, this is how tight we want our drivers to make their straps when they are pulling foam insulation. Me as the fleet owner, can I call you up? Hey, John, I want to order 600 strap cinches for my fleet, and I want you to pre-program them to this certain data point because this is how tight I want the straps to be for this. So basically, we have a list. Right here, we do foam insulation. Right here, we do this product here that requires this amount of tension. Right here, we do chain link fencing. Blah blah blah. It just goes down the list, no matter what it is. Um, for talking points, it's gonna we're just discussing things that require a certain amount of tension. What you're saying is the strap sentry can be programmed for a certain tension.
So kind of, I like where you're going with that, but at the moment, you would strap down the foam or the strap on the foam, however you think is sufficient. So it's not going to crush it and it's not going to fly away, right?
Right.
So when you figure out that tension, you put on the strap sentry, it'll read whatever that tension is, and then you just tap the bar to lock it in. Say this is where I started. Let me know if I start deviating from that. So if
Can
you
you
start,
can you can you punch it in there like so, like essentially make notes? So this right here, this level right here, okay, this is for foam loads. So you go back in, you pull 30 loads down the road. Well, each one you save foam load, uh, rolled steel, chain link. Well, now I'm back on the foam. Which one's the foam? Click on that. Okay, this is where I was at with foam. Now I know where I need to set my tension at. So I can crank down on my winch bar, hook up my strap sentry. Now I know where I need my tension to be on my strap sentry. It's the same tension every time.
yeah, see,
That's
these are the things I keep learning from you every time we talk. See, I didn't know that that would be a need, and that's something that we could absolutely incorporate. I think
right.
it's a great idea.
I, I think maybe I should hush up a little bit and start talking in private with you. We're gonna start giving away some secrets here. So going back to fleet owners, do you think that maybe they're seeing that they could see this as something that could help them with compliance and safety audits?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not too familiar with the trucking industry or the compliance safety audits, but we're working on something now where we could monitor a fleet. So if you had a set of sensors on a certain truck that would be tied to the driver of the truck and their account, and then you'd have a fleet account that could monitor the entire fleet, all the sensors, and see if they're coming loose from where they started. And if that happened, they'd get a notification as well, whether that's a text message if they're not at their computer or looking at a dashboard, something like that. So that's another thing that we're in the development with after talking with you, obviously, and learning more about the trucking needs.
So after talking with us, it was clear from the get go. FSSG wanted to partner with Strap Sentry. As soon as we started talking to each other, I was like, yeah, I want John on our team. So let's talk about FSSG's role in all of this. Our mission has always been about closing the gap in training, safety, and securement knowledge, right? So once Robin connected us, what were your thoughts on partnering with FSSG to push this into the trucking industry?
I mean, every time we talk, I realize that you've been a great resource. I mean, obviously, we have a shared mission. That's why Robin put us in contact. But I mean, you're just open. I'm learning more and more every time we talk. And thanks for sending the handbook. I'm going to learn even more out of that. I mean,
Yeah. For those who don't know, we FSSG sent him the JJ Keller. I don't know if I can say that, but the JJ Keller Cargo Securement Handbook, so that he could learn more about cargo securement. Um, we thought that would be pretty detrimental to his growth in the transportation industry. Sorry about that, John.
yeah, yeah, no, no, I appreciate that because I kind of just threw that in the middle there. But yeah, just learning so much from you guys every time we chat and certain needs, coming up with great ideas like you just did on the fly there about about the different types of loads.
Hmm. So we have been having conversations about how Strap Sentry could help not just owner operators, but large fleets, safety inspectors like DOT officers, and even insurance companies we spoke about. From your end, what's the biggest hurdle in getting this widely adopted in the trucking industry?
I think presenting the business case, like you know, what we're both doing, you with the training and me with the Strap Sentry, is technically adding costs. We've got to convince folks and companies to make the investment in safety so that they don't have something more expensive or
Mhm.
detrimental down the road. So I think that's going to be our biggest hurdle.
Right.
I did want to mention too, if we could back up, you had asked about the battery life on the Strap Sentry. And something that I didn't want to forget because I'm actually trying to figure that out myself. I've had it connected for almost 2 weeks now from a full charge, and I'm probably two-thirds of the way out of the battery life. So I don't even know the bottom of it yet, but it'll last at least 2 weeks. So if you're driving for 2 weeks straight, you wouldn't have to worry about charging it.
Yep. Well, I'm sure we can get that on a flatbed truck, and we will test the test the heck out of it. And we'll just see just how long it. I mean, yeah, it can hold up in cold weather, hot weather, being beat up. See, because that's going to
Yeah,
be the biggest test is seeing can it hold up again? Because the flatbed trucking as an industry is a brutal industry. Our chains get beat up, our binders get beat up, our straps crack and break, our winch bars. I mean, we put so much tension on the winches themselves, we can break our winch bars.
yeah.
So the biggest hurdle is just making sure that the strap century itself is a strong piece of uh, 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 technology, and it sounds like it's going to be a pretty strong piece of work there.
Yeah, it's fully sealed housings and the stainless steel latch, so it's definitely designed to be outdoors because
It's
that's where it's going
designed
to
to
be.
yeah designed to take a beating.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, do you think that this could eventually be something that gets written into safety recommendations, or maybe something that could be a part of the FMCSA guidelines?
I mean, that would be the hope, to make this something that everybody could benefit from. Another way, another piece of technology that can make all our roads safer and save lives.
Hmm.
In addition, I think maybe insurance companies could latch onto something like this. If you did use this, you're showing that you're safety minded. Maybe they could cut rates, knowing that the risk would be lowered with the strap sentry in use.
Right. So right now, trucking as a whole is still very old school when it comes to cargo securement. Okay, we still use the same straps, the same chains, the same binders, the same manual load checks. Where do you, with the creation of Strap Sentry, where do you see the future of trucking securement as it becomes more automated and data driven?
Yeah, well, my thought for strap sentry was not to recreate the wheel or recreate smart straps or smart winches at the moment, because I know all that stuff adds cost. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to just kind of supplement or complement the current technology and use something that just latches on to standard straps and anybody could pick up and use today.
So let's now think outside of trucking. Let's take Strap Sentry out of the top of roof racks and off the top of flatbed decks and out the back of a drive-in. Okay, could this technology, now hear me out, could it be used in construction, agriculture, or even military applications? I think it can.
Yeah, I mean, anything that really is concerned about tension. I mean, obviously, if they're strapping anything down, that would be a use case. Even air freight, stuff like that, or they're any kind of freight, obviously, anything that's getting strapped down would be a great use case, I think.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So what you're telling me is, Dan, when we get off of this podcast, you got a lot more work you got to do. Right? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm here. That's what I'm saying.
You got some more emails you got to send out, Dan. All right. So you are an engineer by trade. And how long did you say you were an engineer?
About 14 years or so. Yeah.
14 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Now you're stepping into product development, marketing, and business strategy. What has been the biggest challenge of this transition for you?
So I have experience launching products, but obviously as part of a larger team. So having a small piece to the large puzzle, in the automotive industry or the aerospace industry. So definitely have experience launching products in that aspect. But marketing and business are very, very new to me. I put my website out there and where is everybody? Don't they know that my website's live? So
Hmm.
you really need to spend the extra time and money and work on strategy to actually get people to know your name, and that's been a real eye opener for me.
Now, I know somebody, and at the end of this podcast, uh, make sure you remind me so I can give you that information. I know somebody that can help you with the marketing side as far as your website goes. Actually, we use them, and so does Learning Without Scars.
Okay,
They're pretty trusted.
cool.
If you could give one piece of advice to other innovators, maybe truckers who have an idea but don't know how to bring it to market, what would it be?
Um, Google and YouTube.
Google and
So,
YouTube.
so I only have mechanical engineering experience, but this device uses circuit boards, sensors, electronics, a phone app, which I didn't have any experience with. But over the last 3 or 4 years, I tried learning with a lot of Google, a lot of YouTube, and ChatGPT is a huge enabler now for anybody that wants to get started, especially with programming. But as far as advice, I tried to stick to one thing and stay focused on that. Like yourself and other innovators, everybody's got a bunch of great ideas they want to pursue, but you got to try to choose the one that you're most passionate about and that you can actually see through, because 3 or 4 years working on this is a long time, and not seeing much light at the end of the tunnel. So it can be a little bit discouraging, but I would say pick one thing you're really passionate about and try to see that through before maybe going on to the next one.
So 3 to 4 years is a while to be working on something, and then, as you said, you didn't see light at the end of the tunnel. Well, during that process, was there a moment in time where you were like, "This isn't going to work. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel." And if you saw that, what what brought you out of that funk and brought you back to reality to say, "Okay, I'm not going to stop this. I'm going to keep working towards this dream, and I'm going to make it a reality."
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think it's a lot of fun to work on. Like I said before, I enjoyed tinkering and working on stuff like 3D printing and things like that, and learning to create like a circuit board and learning to write an app was a lot of fun. So I figured, if this doesn't pan out, at least I learned some cool stuff and had some fun. But then also trying to stay committed to the overall mission of helping to make roads safer. As my kids grow up, or even if I'm on the road with my kids, I think about their safety, and it's almost never your fault when you're driving. It's a lot of times the people around you that you got to worry about. So yeah, just trying to stick with that overall mission of making things safer,
Right.
since I feel like I've always been so close to getting it ready, and you always need to. This feels like the last 5% is buttoning up all the details takes the longest time, but seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now, and it's been pretty exciting.
Right. Now, is there any future plans that you can discuss?
I've got a few more ideas on how to sense tension in other ways that might be smaller or less expensive.
Hmm.
And then also the bunch of the stuff that we've talked about, different things have tension like chains, and that's obviously a big need because chains typically hold the big loads, right? Even the more dangerous loads. So there
Hmm.
potentially could be a need there to
Yeah.
sense change tension. And then obviously the one we talked about was stepping up the 1 to 2 inch strap design up to a 3 to 4 inch strap, where it's sounds like it's more prevalent in your industry.
Yeah. Yep. So we use the most common strap that we use is a 4 inch strap, as we explained, and then the second most common is a 2 inch. We don't necessarily use a 3 inch or the 1 inch, although we might use a 1 inch to secure a tarp to like a catwalk, or it, if we use it, it has to have a working load limit,
Yeah.
especially if it's secured to the deck of a flatbed. Um, but most commonly, it's going to be the 2 inch and the 4 inch design that we use on a flatbed design or a flatbed
Okay.
setup. Um, so in trucking as a whole, as we dig deeper, not you and I, but the industry as a whole, they're getting more and more into technology. Okay, sensors are more and more common. You got the front end sensors that detect if there's something in front of you. You've got the side sensor to detect something beside you. I mean, heck, they're even putting cameras on the side of the trucks now to replace mirrors, right? So technology is advancing. So you're getting in the game early enough to make a difference. You're getting in the game early enough to even improve your technology, right?
Hmm.
Um, where do you see your Strap Sentry in, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
I think in 5 to 10 years, we will be learning a lot about what people need, a lot more about what people need, put more development into the app to make it more powerful, making things smaller, lighter, less expensive for people to use.
Hmm.
And then obviously newer technologies with the chains and other securement.
So there will be more products that Strap Sentry is going to release in the future.
Yeah,
It's stand by and let's see where the future takes us, kind of thing.
right.
So I'm a let's say I'm a fleet owner, and I don't necessarily see a need for 60 of my trucks to have 14 to 20 Strap Sentries, right? Or I own 3,000 dry vans, and I don't see a need for 3,000 of my dry vans to have two to four strap sentries per dry van. What other argument could we use? Can we use the argument that, okay, you don't want to use a strap sentry because of the need to monitor the load as far as the strap becoming loose? Can the strap sentry, or will the strap sentry, be able to be used in other ways? What I mean by that is data analytics. Can or will the Strap Sentry be a device that can prove or provide data, real time data, to companies that are wanting to know what's going on with the loads or shippers
Yeah,
or receivers?
yeah, absolutely. I think that you can learn a lot by collecting the data with the Strap Sentry. Like a fleet owner could know what loads are most at risk. Should we be stopping more frequently than that 150 or 3 hour timeline
Mm-hmm.
marker? Are those uh, foam foam loads? How quickly do those actually loosen up when it gets a little wind resistance and the straps cranking down on them, or the link fence? Can we go even longer knowing that that's a rigid load that doesn't need to be checked on as often? I think you can learn a lot from collecting long-term data.
So, like engineers who design, there are some companies who have engineers that design how a load needs to be positioned on a flatbed truck or trailer. Those engineers could say, "Hey, we're going to attach strap sentries to this load because we want to know if the load, as we designed it, and how you're going to secure it, how it's going to act while it's being transported. That way, it can tell the engineers if they have to reposition the load for future hauls, right?
Yeah,
So what you're saying is the strap sentry is essentially can also be used for that purpose. It can provide data to shippers and receivers and fleet owners to give them that real time data to make the transportation more safer, right, in the future.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, or even maybe prevent damage to the products. If they're finding that it's shifting around or getting too tight, they could
Yeah,
use that data to
it,
determine that.
it can tell the customer if the company is using too much tension on the products. Yeah, it could off the top of my head, maybe I might be wrong about this, but it could potentially reduce insurance claims on products because it could alert the driver, hey, you're going too tight in this. That's another thing that it has the potential of doing, right? It could be set up in the future, depending on how it's set up. Is it could have predetermined data, or I don't know the fancy terms. I am not smart with technology whatsoever, but it could have predetermined parameters inside of it based off the loads that we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
And if the driver is, he can hook up the straps that you're prior to starting to tighten the load, and okay, now I'm picking up foam. Click, click, click. The strap stitcher can set alert to the phone. Okay, stop because now you're too tight, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it could prevent damage. And then while it's in transit, it could say, do, 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 you need to pull over because now your straps are too loose. And
yeah,
then while he's out there cranking it up, do, 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 stop. That's enough tension. Get back on the road. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with the strap switcher that I see benefiting the transportation industry as far as keeping the driver safe, reducing insurance claims on damaged loads, data analytics as far as uh, letting companies know what's going on inside their trailers, uh, alerting drivers in real time what's going on, especially with loads they can't see, whether it's in a Conestoga or a covered wagon or in a dry van trailer. Now, the problem with dry van trailers, of course, is the sealed trailers.
hmm,
But with the trailers, that there's a lot of loads that go down the road that aren't sealed. So, I mean, there's that. So, I mean, there's a lot that can be worked on here. And I see a huge benefit for it in the transportation industry. So, John, this has been an awesome conversation. And now, before we wrap it up, where can people go to learn more about Strap Sentry or get updates or to even try it out?
sure. We've got a website, strapsentry.com, and Facebook page, and Instagram page, and LinkedIn page, and I think we're connected on all of those. So whether it's through you or directly through the website, check us out and send me an email if you're really interested in trying one out. We also have a Kickstarter page that's more designed for the passenger vehicle type user, but if you're interested in that, head over to Kickstarter and look up Strap Sentry, and it'll be launching soon.
So if a fleet owner or somebody in the safety department of transportation sees this podcast and they want to get their hands on the Strap Sentry before it goes public, they just need to reach out to you and you can help get that all set up. How would
Yeah,
that?
I've got a handful of prototypes that I've been handing out to beta testers, and really appreciate everybody's feedback. So if you'd want to become a beta tester, send me a note, and we could try to get that set up.
Okay. Do you want to disclose an email, or do you just want them to go to your website and find you?
Yeah, I've got an email link on my website, or just info@strapsentry.com. But
Info at strapsentry.com.
yep,
Okay. Or strapsentry.com is your website.
yep, yep. And there's a link for all the social medias and the email account there.
And finally, if there's one thing that you want truckers and fleet managers to take away from this conversation about load securement, what would it be?
I appreciate you guys all taking the extra step and the extra time to secure the loads. Those loads look pretty dangerous when I'm driving by, and I appreciate the focus that you guys are keeping on the road and keeping everybody safe around you. So thank you.
John, thanks again for coming on to Tech on Deck. I'm really excited to see where Strap Sentry goes from here. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on its impact on the transportation industry. Okay, so thanks
Thanks so
again.
much for having me. This
I
is a great conversation, like
Yeah,
usual.
I clicked my screen and our cameras flipped around, and it confused me. I don't know what happened there. So, but anyways, man, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk again.
All right, thanks again. Have a good one.